So I don't know if you can remember back to 2 weeks ago, isn't it, when we just talked about all the three things that we were good at. Do you remember doing that session?
Oh yes.
And I thought that was really quite helpful, actually, and it was interesting. We found out quite a lot about each other through that, didn't we? I did. But tonight I just had a bit of a picture before I came on, and what I want us to tackle tonight together is like sort of tackling it together as friends, really, is looking at one main obstacle, the one main roadblock that we feel and perceive. And I had this picture of, I suppose it was myself, really. I was staring at the wall, and I couldn't get through this wall. The wall was there, and I was just focused on this wall. And then when I took my eyes off it, it made sense. And I feel like sometimes, there's often things that are looming big in our creative, business, ministry, whatever we want to do. And they can become a bit like a mountain. They can become so big. We get so focused on the problem that we can't really see that it's not as big as we imagine. And actually, when we're together somehow and we pray and we prophesy, you get a bit of perspective, don't you, sometimes on life's challenges. And, it doesn't have to just be a creative life. It's, life itself has all these challenges. And sometimes you get I get a day where I'm feeling quite blue and quite, low in mood. And, sometimes I'm just looking at the problem too much and, not really seeing perspective and forgetting that God's in this and he's able to, even if you're not particularly talented in an area, he can get you the resources you need to get past this obstacle. Because, the things that we're good at, they flow in our lives, don't they? Your creativity and stuff. Like, if you tell me to write a piece of music, that isn't really that's not like a negative for me. It's always a positive because it's easy for me. It's what I do naturally. But if it's something like, even things like marketing and websites, but I've got a reasonable amount of proficiency in that. They're still for me more of a challenge. They do enjoy them, but they just have to be done. And if you take it a bit further for me, I think I was going to say my biggest challenge probably is helping Fran run the gym. That's the thing that causes me the most stress, and especially the finances with that. But so I just want us to be honest with ourselves, and let's be sort of asking ourselves what is the biggest challenge you face? What's the biggest obstacle you have with your creativity and really, getting the success you want, going the direction you want. And maybe we can discuss that and pray and prophesy and see where that leads. So does that make sense? Is that helpful? Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. So how do we start, really? So it needs to be just one problem as well. So try and sort of, I know there might be more than one, but try and think of what's the really major one, the thing that really gets you, frustrated. And I think this is really important as well, because I think we're probably going to have some sort of continuity in this, and it will really help with this group knowing what, how to tackle these problems. In other words, how to help you.
When you say, okay, so Andrew's asking, problem with business or with creativity?
No, I think really with the business. I mean, it doesn't matter really, but I think for us, most of us, I think, am I right in saying it's probably the biggest challenges are not your creativity, it's the, things like websites and marketing and, talking to people and all the rest of the stuff we have to do, unless we want to hide in a hole somewhere and just be an artist doing stuff on our own. It's impossible, isn't it, these days? We've got to face these giants. They are really sometimes, aren't they, in our minds? Yeah, so
well, everybody's kind of brilliant at what they do, so I'm assuming that the creativity itself is not a major, I think that's what we're saying, that's
I think so, yeah,
not a major roadblock. Because I don't think you'd be where you are today if it was.
No, that's true, yeah.
So does anybody have something that immediately springs to mind. You know, if you have to kind of like dig really deep, then it's obviously not major. Okay, Shelley's got her hand up. She might be working with a student, which is, oh no, she's there. Hi.
Yeah. Hi, they're not showing up right now.
Okay.
I do not have inventory. So my biggest challenge is the discipline to overcome like not feeling inspired. I like to be in nature, and that's where I get my inspiration. So I'm not spending enough time. I think it's kind of like self-care to nurture my own outlet for drawing. But then if I have time, if I wake up super early in the morning before work, I do have the time, but I'm not applying it towards, you know, practicing or anything like that. So my biggest roadblock right now is self-discipline.
Right.
And making creativity a priority.
Does anybody else resonate with that, actually? Because I'm writing these down, and right, so Tanya.
Okay.
Yes.
And I mean, can you dive a little bit deeper with that one? It was self-discipline. Is it more to do with that you have lots going on in your life and it's sort of juggling, or is it just procrastinate? You know, it could be just procrastination, because sometimes, you know, we get loads of time. It's not that we haven't got the time, we just don't get, we feel it difficult to get started. You know, there's different issues, isn't there, with self-discipline, in my opinion.
Yes, there is. Like if I can't get out into nature, I should be doing something and practicing, but I don't feel it. It's like I'm not feeling it. I feel like, you know, stuck inside, and that I don't want to, because I'm bored being inside. So that's not my go-to, even though I want to, but I'm not scheduling it in. And that's what I think I need to do. Like that really worked for me when during lockdown and the pandemic. I is when I became familiar with Matt Tommy, and you also mentioned this too, Paul, is to make a schedule and keep it. And even if I am drawing something that I don't find interesting, you know, that's not encouraging me and making me feel, you know, closer to nature, then I still need to do it. So it's just taking those steps.
Yeah. And as we're talking, I've just had a little idea. This may not be, you know, you have to take this up yourself. I was thinking maybe Tanya and Shelley, you should buddy up and just talk about it as well at some point, you know, because an issue shared is sort of reduced a little bit, isn't it?
Well,
as well?
Mine might be slightly different because I have, it's the busyness. So I have to be creative within my creativity, like finding the spot right now. When I was looking, this actually helped me, Shelley. Here's just a little thing. If I look at it and go, oh, it's only 7 more weeks of, you know, really intense stuff going on with like the football season, for example. So I found, and Paul and I have shared about this, like looking at it in chunks rather than, I don't know, I fight the overwhelm too. It's like, so there's multiple things going on. And then I have found that if I think in the mentally, my creativity actually gives me energy. So if I can not look at it as another thing that I have to do, this is just something that's coming to me actually as we're talking. I have to look at it as I get to do this, and it's going to feed me instead of drain me, because a lot of the things I'm doing right now are draining me. So it's almost like when, you know, okay, I know that when I go work out, I feel better, right?
I agree with you there. And I remember once I asked Dr. Mayo, you know, the brain lady, I asked her about creativity, and she suggested actually it's a good idea to begin with creativity before you do like some of the boring tasks, because actually gets your brain flowing and you get into the right brain state. But a lot of these things are psychological, and you've got to work out you know, how you function yourself, haven't you? It's like, you know, there's no one fits all answer to this, I think, as well. It depends on, but yeah, that's great. So we'll I've written that down. We might come back to that in a minute, because that sounds like, anybody else that same topic? You know, just self-discipline is your issue. No? Simon, what's, yeah?
I think mine is really Facebook business manager, and just getting all that set up, and then starting to post, like have a schedule with that, and then actually start to watch it and see, okay, feel like they do an adaptive poll, like see which ones resonate, and then actually start to put a bit of budget behind them, because I'm working up to releasing a song hopefully at the end of October, so I want to do a pretty good run up of stuff and content, but I know that I can get all the content together, but then it's the Facebook business manager, which is, every time I look at it, it's just a bit.
I hate Facebook business manager.
I hate it as
don't
well.
use it.
So it's this there's a block there. It's like, I know that I can get my head around it and do it, but it just feels like it's this hump.
I mean, this is a quick answer. I use Post Planner, which is a paid,
Right.
but it's so much easier to use because it's like Facebook Business Manager doesn't see. I mean, they keep changing it every 5 minutes, and it's. I don't think it's that easy to use. It's quite confusing. I want something that's simple. I can just post. If I'm going to, I've scheduled all my posts out, but do them ahead of time, and I do them in Post Planner. I found is the easiest one. We've tried different ones,
but I think it's also like the Facebook pixel and the getting the campaign set up and the events. Like, the more you look into it, the more there is. The can of worms just.
Oh, it's a nightmare. Yeah. Like, I've done it. I've gone through it twice. So, but it still gives me the, you just leave it alone and hope for the best. Sometimes you think, I don't want to touch that for a while. And then you've also got Google Tag Manager as well, which is even worse if you get websites to track your. But don't go into that, because that'll frighten a whole load of people. That's like a mountain. It's not designed for anybody really that's not a geek to use. So that's a good one, actually. That's a good one.
I guess, behind that, I'm a pretty tech savvy guy, but there is a bit of a, like, even to do this song that I'm doing, I haven't mixed and produced in years, but I've been working at the last sort of couple of months, and I've been really enjoying it. I'm almost got the song finished, and I'm going to make a video for it. So I know that it's just getting over that hump and getting into stuff, but it's like you said before, it's the stuff that's draining, which is just draining, and we all just want to create all day, every day, but it's like,
and sometimes it's the thought, even the thought of just getting started with some of this stuff is the biggest challenge, isn't it, actually?
Yeah.
I mean, like today, I'll give you a different example. I've got to do accounts for this, for all my subscriptions to this, this thing, because I've been putting it off because I've been doing everything else. But it didn't take me very long when I actually got on with it today. Actually, it wasn't too bad at all. I just did a spreadsheet, and I found out some good things as well. And actually, it was just getting started, which was the biggest hurdle. But that's not always the case. Is that sometimes you get stuck as well. That's the thing. You get so far and you get stuck. So technically, really, what would you categorize that as? Sort of technical issues, really, sort of in a broad.
Well, actually, I think it's more than that, because it's like behind it is actually probably a fear of me going, oh, now I've got my product and I've put all my stuff into it, and now I have to market it. I think that's and I have to do videos, and I have to like show up, and I have to be vulnerable, and the whole 9 yards. And it's like, and I just have to let it go. And maybe there's, out of 1,000 people, there's one buy, blah, blah, blah. It starts to just come up. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think that's I'm
so frustrated in that department that I basically just went, I can't do this right now.
Yeah, but
there is a block though.
That's why it's the mountain for me, because it's like I've got some really good stuff, and I believe it's going to help people, but it's just me getting over myself and just going, right, let's just get it organized and schedule it and just get it out. And
I think it's not feeling guilty that you feel some of these things are a terrific challenge. Because I can do quite a lot of different things, and I think the hardest thing for me is for me to actually ask for help when I get stuck. That's why I do adaptive with you, Simon, because those guys know the next level up. They don't always answer my questions. Sometimes they give me two more to answer, but it has just been like looking at yourself and not feeling like, well, I don't know how to do this. Well, I just don't know how to do this. Well, you know, I need someone's help, or I need God's help. You know, that is one solution. You know, just ask the Holy Spirit for help. And sometimes you do get an amazing, you know, you get a course. I mean, SEO, for example. You know, we've been doing that with James in Adaptive. Well, you know, I've been doing a course on it now, which is so good because it explains it. And I'm thinking, oh, I understand this now. Because not everybody thinks the same way, do they? You know, not everyone learns the same way. So
can I just clarify something?
Yeah, go on, yeah.
So am I correct, Simon, in that you're confident with like your song creation, but the thing that you find difficult is Facebook and publicizing everything and releasing things and dealing with the whole technical side of it? Is that what you find challenging?
It's not so much the technical side, it's more the, I mean, now that you asked the question and now that it's sinking in or going a bit deeper, it's really like, it's it's probably a fear of not being accepted or not being liked.
Right.
Because that's the whole, I generally don't like social media, and I've gotten into, we all get into, you know, bad habits with it. And it's just like, I would just prefer just to switch it off and have somebody else deal with it. But it's like, we all know that that's not how it works. Like, you got to show up and you got to do this stuff. So, sorry, I should say, I get to show up. I get to, what's that Atomic Habits book, Paul? I get to show up. I get to do this, you know.
Yes.
So it's, you know, I could keep, and I'm a sucker for doing courses and being part of memberships and just going, oh yeah, I'll just do this and I'll do that. And then no, it's like, Simon, you got to put the rubber to the road, mate, and actually just rock it out, you know, do it. So that's what it comes down to.
So it's a bit like stage fright.
I don't. Yeah, it is. But I mean, I walk on stage and I sing and play and do the whole thing, and I feel completely at home. Why the heck do I struggle with just a computer and a camera? I mean, it's not even the camera. The video making is fine. It's just the sort of click, release. I don't know. It's just because you can't get it back. You can't. Once it's gone, it's like that's it. You can't reel that fish or the rod back in and say, oh, can I change? I mean, yeah, okay, I'm a perfectionist. Like, it's all coming out now.
I think there's a reason for that, you know.
Sally, go on, you were going to say something.
Yeah. So Simon, tell me, is this about getting your music out there and promoting it? Is that what this is about?
I've had a publishing deal for 21 years, and I guess the first 8 or 9 of those, the internet wasn't really there. So it's the last 10 years, and I just well, here comes another one. So I just always put off my music. I just feel like there's no money in being original. Like, that's a huge one for me. So I always like teach, I play other people's music, etc., etc. So what was your question, Sally? Sorry.
So you're using something called Facebook Manager. So just so you know, like I'm going to be, well, I've semi-released a song and I want to release another song and do it properly. And I'm not even looking at Facebook Manager. I'm trying to get from you, like, is this about promoting new music that you're putting out? And
so I want to promote the new music, but off the back of that, I've sort of been struggling with, do I be the artist? Do I be the teacher? But now the thing is, I'm going to be the teacher who releases the song and then teaches off the back of the song. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So in other words, the song becomes like a lead magnet to sort of draw people in and say, okay, now I'm going to teach you how I wrote this song and analyze it, etc., etc. And
that helps me. Sorry.
Yeah. So that
helps me understand better about why you're choosing that way, because I would never, like, myself, maybe I'm going too traditional now, but I'm choosing other venues to promote my song. So I'm just trying to get an idea, like I can learn from you maybe because of
your decision to go to do it this way. But I see now that your purpose is a little bit different than mine. Like, I just want to release my song and I want lots of people to hear it. That's all I want, right? And so, so I was just curious about, because I would probably find it very intimidating to do the technology part. And so I'm going maybe more old school. Like, I'm going to radio stations and saying, here's my song, so I can get royalties off of it. You know what I'm saying?
I think that's, I mean, I need to do the same thing as well. That's still valid, but what I want to, I guess I want to use YouTube as the sort of main vehicle, but I want to use Facebook and Instagram to get some statistics and get people to an email list, because, or a pre-release, because then on release day, it actually bumps it up the algorithm. And if I can get on a whole bunch of playlists, if I give myself a month or 5 weeks to run up to this and get myself on playlists for Spotify, then the song has a chance to actually do something. Because if I just release it, it just gets lost into the ether. I've done enough research and courses to go, okay, this is the way it has to go now.
Okay, I guess you're just too far ahead of me. I'm just too old school.
Can I just
no, I mean, I'm old school as well. Don't get me wrong, but you got to push people to that release date, and then they'll go, yes, I like that song. And then I don't know, I've never done this before. This is the whole thing. So there's just so many pieces of the puzzle that come into it, and it's like Facebook is the sort of the kingpin. I just like feel like saying, go, somebody else come and be the gatekeeper. Anyway.
The thing is, let me make an observation, Simon. I think you're overthinking it a little bit, if I was honest. That's just my honest opinion.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, because I think you've just, some of these things this is the trouble. Sometimes we just and ah about doing all this stuff because we want to do it all perfectly. And I've learned, the big lesson I've learned is that actually sometimes you just got to try different things, see what works. Facebook doesn't particularly work in promoting music, actually. It's not what promotes your music. It's all the stuff around that. It's having a strategy.
It's the audience, isn't it? Trying to find the audience.
Yeah, it is. I mean, look, I mean, my Spotify for the minute, you know, I don't really, all that's happening with that, I think I'm on a playlist somewhere, and it's increasing. But you know, the strategy I've had is pretty lame, really, but it's actually getting results at the moment. So sometimes there's a bit of luck. But you've got to do something. If you do nothing, nothing's going to happen. Sure. And I mean, YouTube, I haven't particularly plugged that, but I think this is where we can learn from each other and just find out, well, does that work or not, you know? But I think, you know, what we've got to do is not just hide away and not try anything. You know, whatever strategy you've got to try it. And does that work? Yeah, it does. If it doesn't, it does. You know, you just got to try different things and not hide away, really. Because no one's going to listen to your music or no one's going to buy your art if no one sees it, do they? Or hears it.
Yeah, sure. I think
it's the truth, isn't it?
It's not such a matter of, I mean, I have been, over the last year or so, been pushing it to the back, but now it's really coming to the forefront. I've finished the mix almost, pretty much. It's got to get mastered. And then it's like, it's time, like it's going to happen, you know, and it's just there's just a lot of pieces of the puzzle, but I think it's good to what you said, Paul. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just got to.
And the other thing, Simon, you are great on video. You're really good on video, actually. No, you are. You're really good at doing the broadcasts I've seen that you've done are really good. So maybe it's just a mindset change, you know, to see yourself differently. Maybe.
No, it's not so much about that. It's just the long list of things to do. I think the solution is I just need to write down everything on paper so I can see it all, and then I just got to check it off, and then that's it. Really.
Can I just say one more thing? Don't lose the fun in it, Simon.
Yeah.
I know that I know that you're a funny guy, like, and you do cool videos and stuff like that. I hope you don't lose that. But having said that, I'm going to be watching what you're doing because maybe I can pick up some tips from you. So
sure, Sally, I'm more than happy to share how it goes and share tips.
That's why it's important to share it in the group as well, so we can all see what we're doing, our failures and our successes. I still remember your skateboarding video that you did. Do you remember, Simon?
Yeah.
So that caught, that went above the radar. You see, that's what it's all about with Facebook. Really, is you've got to get people's attention, because there's so much rubbish out there. You know, it's just Andrea, what you've got your hand up.
Before we,
Sorry, go on.
Did Madeline? Did you finish what you were going to say?
Did you get clarity, Madeline?
Oh, you're muted. You're still
Sorry,
muted.
I was just checking that you could hear me.
Yeah.
I didn't really finish, but I also struggle with this kind of promoting on Facebook kind of thing, and also like what you were saying, Paul, about like almost to 1,000 listeners on Spotify. And you know, I feel like as an artist, as someone who's very creative and someone that, you know, you feel that God's given you this gift to make original things. And I feel like the world that we live in, there's so many competing voices, and it's much easier to watch a cat video or people falling over on slides on dumb TV programs.
Yeah.
And like we're competing for these audiences for whom really it's much easier to just appeal to their base motives or shallow motives. And you know, we need to face the fact that not everyone's ready to, you know, engage with deep things. And that's just one of the challenges that we are always going to have as artists. And what I found encouraging, and I hope that this encourages all of you, I got back from a wedding. I was asked by a friend of mine that I've known for a long time to play the piano at her wedding in the ceremony, and also to, you know, do a song at her wedding dinner. And I also just brought loads of cards from my paintings that I've done to give as presents to the various people that I met. And it was a beautiful wedding in France. It was on the Swiss border in the Alps. It was so tasteful, so lovely. And I met so many intelligent people who appreciate art. And it was, the thing that hit me was that it was all, you know, I didn't need to use Facebook for any of it. I just met all these great people. I gave a gift, and now I've got commissions. I've got people wanting prints of my art, just these people that I met face to face. Didn't need to do any Facebook, didn't need to do any Instagram or any promotion. And it just hit me that, you know, when you know, God gives you opportunities to sort of meet people at things like this. And it was such a wonderful opportunity to bless people. I wasn't being paid, you know, to play the piano or anything, or to do this song or anything, but it gave me like loads of art opportunities to the right kinds of people. And it just really encouraged me, because I've often struggled with, oh, no one's listening to me, I'm doing all this stuff and no one's finding it. Wow. But it was actually really encouraging. So, you know, I don't know if the whole technological world that we live in is necessarily the answer. I don't know what anyone else feels about that.
I think I agree, Madeline. I think it's the old school way, and what Sally was saying before. Still, people do business with people. You know what I mean? So I think the whole social media thing is just one part of it. And I watched a really good masterclass the other day, which wasn't a Christian thing, but she just said with social media, you just have to find the channel that suits you best in your style, and just be yourself and do that. Like, you don't have to do what the crowd's doing. It's just like, if it's, and a lot of, there's a DJ called Giles Peterson, who's a UK guy, and he doesn't do anything at all. And his music is just so good that people just know him. He's a bit sort of underground, but then he just gets found out because the cream rises to the top, so to speak. So it's taking it all with a grain of salt. I think once I get everything set up, then it's like, okay, that's done. And the next song will it'll be a lot easier. It's just getting the first thing on the road, basically. So but thanks for your thoughts, Madeline. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's good, because you've got to find you've got to find your audience, really. You've got to find, I keep saying this, the thing that God taught me is you've got to find the people that you are called to serve. That's what your gift is for, isn't it? So that's why we can ask the Holy Spirit, what is the channel? How is that going to happen? And it could be, it's like, for example, our gym. We've used traditional methods for years. Now we're tending to use more social media, because we use paid advertising, because that gets the audience, because I can narrow it down. I can it can be good and bad. You need to know what you're doing, really. That's the trouble with all these things. It's just learning how they work. And some of us are better with people, so I prefer face-to-face contact, actually, rather than social media in lots of ways, because it's unreal. But we've got to work with what we have, haven't we? And you can't wind back time either. The music world is different. The arts world is different as well. Andrea.
Yeah. The more Simon talked, this might not be as different. This might not be totally unique to what he was saying, but I was just thinking, like, a lot of times when I'm going to do something, like right now I'm working on my website and I need to get images up and ready. And what often happens is, like, I'll be tackling a big project and then I realize, oh, there's this one thing over here that I can't actually move forward until I resolve this. And then I usually am like, okay, well, maybe, try to go for the low hanging fruit. Okay, let me start on this part. Oh, there's this other roadblock over here. And pretty soon I have like an octopus of roadblocks in a lot of, I'm serious, like in all these different places. And I'm like, okay, what was already going to be a bit of a thing, now I have like more minor things, and part of it is because I didn't set up great systems when I first started doing this back when I was a hobbyist. And so it's like, oh, my lack of good systems in the past is now coming to roost. And I'm just trying to figure out, like, okay, how do I start eating the elephant? And like Simon said, maybe it's just a matter of like making a list, but like I'm a list person, but I have made lists and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's going to take me a week to like make all the lists of all the things that need to get done. So all the roads are clear so I can just move on them. So I don't know if you or anybody has any thoughts on those things. I'm getting there, but I just ran into another one the other day where I'm like, oh, I thought I had all this. Like, I have images from my previous image libraries are on different hard drives, and they're all supposed to be combined into my main image editing program. And for some reason, some of these are not connected. And so I can't edit them. I can't print them. I can't do anything until they're all connected. And I thought I already did the big push, but a huge chunk of my most creative work from a couple of years ago when I was in a beautiful place is all stuck somewhere in Never Land. And I'm just like, awesome. So, yeah, that's just an example.
So is that your biggest roadblock then? So
yeah,
connected up.
Yes, and but the thing is like, it seems to happen in a lot of the bigger projects I do. Like, there's always like littler things that start to grow arms, and pretty soon it's like, oh, for crying out loud. So which is why I'll start a big project and then eventually just be like, you know what, I'm gonna go take some pictures right now, which just increases the amount of things I have to deal with eventually, because I can't get an inroad in the places that I want to. So there you go.
And I think what you're saying really, that I think Sally mentioned this earlier as well, sometimes these things can be a big distraction as well, because actually in terms of return on investment, your time is investment as well. If you're spending, you've got a week of time and you're spending 2/3 of that tackling technical issues, rather than actually going and creating, you've got to balance that, and you've got to think, well, maybe I should spend 2/3 of my time creating and only 1/3, just being happy with where I am technically, in the journey. And there may be other avenues where you don't need to have a website or anything anyway, like Madeleine was saying. Just get out there, and you're meeting the right person at the right time could be the key, couldn't it, for some of us? Because the trouble is, all this stuff is like sold as like a solution to our problem, isn't it, really? The internet sold as that, and it does amazing things, but the trouble is it also becomes can become a big distraction as well, because we spend so much time trying to master the tools and techniques that we need that keep changing every 5 minutes as well. That's the other frustration.
It's interesting when you think about all the various ways that you can go to market now. I mean, in the past, you put an ad in the paper, and that was, and the local rags, and that was kind of all you had. And then there was television and radio, but that's just too expensive for most people. When we started the gym business, we put an ad in the paper. We had local local magazines, and we printed flyers and had flyers distributed. And then we ended up, we kind of had a chunk of everything. So we had flyers, we stopped doing the big papers. We just did the little papers, the small magazines, local magazines. And then, but by far the most, this comes back to Madeleine's point, by far the most successful in terms of getting the most leads and people interested, by far the biggest opportunities, or the most successful, lucrative opportunities, were face-to-face. Like we have a Michaelmas fair, it's a local fair, quite a well-to-do village. We used to go to Asda, just a supermarket, set up a table and hand out flyers and talk to people. We used to do that downtown. And we find that meeting people, in person actually gets the message across, and they get to that place where, they know you, they like you, they trust you, or just they start by liking you more readily face to face than any other type of medium. So, now that COVID is over, or, the restrictions from it, think about the places that you think about, the face-to-face audiences that you could put yourself in front of, in terms of weddings, for Simon, various fairs, subject fairs like art fairs or exhibitions and things like that. So if face-to-face is a good way of meeting people and getting commissions and things like that, then maybe it's a good opportunity to actually think deliberately, sit down and deliberately think about the face-to-face places that are your subject, and therefore you could market your stuff more readily in a face-to-face situation. So that might be an opportunity for quite a lot of people. I don't think Madeleine's the first person to have said that in terms of selling.
And this is the problem with online marketing, is people forget that people buy from people.
Yeah,
they buy from people they know, they like, they trust.
Yeah.
So that's the key to any internet marketing. You've got to develop that. You've got to develop, actual connection. That's actually harder than face-to-face. When you go and meet somebody. That's why it's difficult, because actually it's difficult to do it, because the technology gets in the way in some ways, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because it can make you feel distant. That's what you've got to develop with people to be successful at that.
Yeah.
I mean, we now do more online marketing than anything else with our gym, don't we now?
Melody, did you want to add something here? Don't forget to unmute yourself.
Thank you. I started up the class again, the old art class that I went to until the lockdown. And there's like 6, 8, 10 people. And it's really nice. It's a great atmosphere. But there's a lady there who started painting about like a year or two before the lockdowns. And she's like Fran. She just blew up. I mean, she started painting. She just went ballistic because she can just copy anything. I mean, she can just paint anything that she sees. And instead of doing paintings like we all were, she started somebody said to her, why don't you make cards? Because people can afford to buy cards. So she made all these prints of her paintings, and she started doing just painting cards. And she's got them at all the local feed stores, different places. And she's making a lot because people will buy a card for $3 or $4. And she's just doing well. It just amazes me how much business she has.
Mm.
It's just another idea. I kind of like that idea. I think I need to do that. Because
Yeah.
she can be right where she's at, you know, she can sew right where she's at.
Mm. Yeah, I think cards and prints are a good way to go if you've got, you know, attractive pictures that are especially kind of like a sequence, or, you know, a theme sequence or something like that, or even photographs. I think cards and prints, because people will consider buying a card or a print for a, you know, a smaller amount of money than maybe, you know, a big original. And if you think about it, you know, you can make that it's a bit like once you've published the book, it can sell over and over and over again. Whereas, you know, once you sell the original,
yeah, it's scalable. Yeah,
it's just, you know, that's it. It's one price, and it's done. Madeline, did you want to add into that discussion there? Oh, yeah.
Yes, Melody, what you're saying about cards. Some of the paintings that I've turned into cards have turned out really well as cards, and others haven't. Like some of the darker ones, for example, haven't turned out very well. But a lot of them have. And it's funny because selling cards that, you know, don't appear in the shops and everything, I never thought it was going to be the greatest money spinner, and I still haven't added everything up and tried to figure out how much I've made from it and the printing costs and everything. But for me, the most important thing about reproducing my art as cards is that, first of all, my art, you know, exists because it glorifies God. And the second thing is that it makes other people spread encouragement and the word and the life of God that is in the art in a way that they can afford. And that's something that is, you know, it may seem like from a big businessman's point of view, not really very important, but actually I think it is quite important in the kingdom of God, because it's helping other people to, first of all, be blessed by the art, and then they have a responsibility to sort of pass it on and write a personal message inside. You know, like I normally have it blank inside, and sometimes there might be a sort of like a prophetic word that somebody might feel for their friend or the person they're sending to it, like inspired by the image. And I feel like that's actually really special. And even though the card itself might cost like £1.99 or like $2.50 or something, it's actually a lot more special because it really touches people in a personal way, individually, one by one. And in that way, I feel like I'm making more of a difference in people's lives, and in a kingdom sense, something that, you know, the Lord notices and cares about. And it's not necessarily to do with like making a big profit, although, you know, I can't really give them away for free. Not all of them, although I do often send them to my friends and family for free or give them away as presents, but that's also a form of advertising too.
Right. Yeah.
So that's what I've got to say about cards.
I just need to stop the recording and start it again.